diagnosis pass. Monitoring treatment, a puzzle they unfold. The unsung heroes of healthcare with more than purest gold. Medical lab assistants with precision in their hand, preparing slides and samples, making sure we understand the intricate details, the messages within. They ensure the results are accurate to fight against the wind. From blood tests to cultures to tissues under glass, they analyze the data, making diagnosis pass. Monitoring treatment, a puzzle they unfold. The unsung heroes of healthcare with more than purest gold. Medical scientists with expertise so deep, they delve into the mysteries, secrets diseases keep. Developing new tests, pushing boundaries wide for better diagnosis with knowledge as their guide. From blood tests to cultures to tissues under glass, they analyze the data, making diagnosis pass. Monitoring treatment, a puzzle they unfold. The unsung heroes of healthcare with more than purest gold. So raise a glass to these heroes on Biomedical Science Day. For the health of every patient, they pave a clearer way. Their dedication, knowledge, a force you can't deny. The silent warriors of medicine with a twinkle in their eye. Hospital, a different kind of fight, not with scalpels or with stitches, but with knowledge and with light. Biomedical scientists, a team you might not see, but behind the scenes they're working for your health and for your glee. From blood tests to cultures to tissues under glass, they analyze the data, making diagnosis pass. Monitoring treatment, a puzzle they unfold. The unsung heroes of healthcare with more than purest gold. Medical lab assistants with precision in their hand, preparing slides and samples, making sure we understand the intricate details, the messages within. They ensure the results are accurate to fight against the wind. From blood tests to cultures to tissues under glass, they analyze the data, making diagnosis pass. Monitoring treatment, a puzzle they unfold. The unsung heroes of healthcare with more than purest gold. Medical scientists with expertise so deep, they delve into the mysteries, secrets diseases keep. Developing new tests, pushing boundaries wide for better diagnosis with knowledge as their guide. From blood tests to cultures to tissues under glass, they analyze the data, making diagnosis pass. Monitoring treatment, a puzzle they unfold. The unsung heroes of healthcare with more than purest gold. So raise a glass to these heroes on Biomedical Science Day. For the health of every patient, they pave a clearer way. Their dedication, knowledge, a force you can't deny. The silent warriors of medicine with a twinkle in their eye. Hospital, a different kind of fight, not with scalpels or with stitches, but with knowledge and with light. Biomedical scientists, a team you might not see, but behind the scenes they're working for your health and for your glee. From blood tests to cultures to tissues under glass, they analyze the data, making diagnosis pass. Monitoring treatment, a puzzle they unfold. The unsung heroes of healthcare with more than purest gold. Medical lab assistants with precision in their hand, preparing slides and samples, making sure we understand the intricate details, the messages within. They ensure the results are accurate to fight against the wind. From blood tests to cultures to tissues under glass, they analyze the data, making diagnosis pass. Monitoring treatment, a puzzle they unfold, the unsung heroes of healthcare with more than purest gold. Clinical scientists with expertise so deep, they delve into the mysteries secrets diseases keep, developing new tests, pushing boundaries wide for better diagnosis with knowledge as their guide. From blood tests to cultures to tissues under glass, they analyze the data, making diagnosis pass. Monitoring treatment, a puzzle they unfold, the unsung heroes of healthcare with more than purest gold. So raise a glass to these heroes on Biomedical Science Day. For the health of every patient, they pave a clearer way. Their dedication, knowledge, a force you can't deny. The silent warriors of medicine with a twinkle in their eye. Hospital, a different kind of fight, not with scalpels or with stitches, but with knowledge and with light. Biomedical scientists, a team you might not see, but behind the scenes they're working for your health and for your glee. From blood tests to cultures to tissues under glass, they analyze the data, making diagnosis pass. Monitoring treatment, a puzzle they unfold, the unsung heroes of healthcare with more than purest gold. Medical lab assistants with precision in their hand, preparing slides and samples, making sure we understand the intricate details, the messages within. They ensure the results are accurate to fight against the wind. From blood tests to cultures to tissues under glass, they analyze the data, making diagnosis pass. Monitoring treatment, a puzzle they unfold, the unsung heroes of healthcare with more than purest gold. Clinical scientists with expertise so deep, they delve into the mysteries secrets diseases keep, developing new tests, pushing boundaries wide for better diagnosis with knowledge as their guide. From blood tests to cultures to tissues under glass, they analyze the data, making diagnosis pass. Monitoring treatment, a puzzle they unfold, the unsung heroes of healthcare with more than purest gold. So raise a glass to these heroes on Biomedical Science Day. For the health of every patient, they pave a clearer way. Their dedication, knowledge, a force you can't deny. The silent warriors of medicine with a twinkle in their eye. Hospital, a different kind of fight, not with scalpels or with stitches, but with knowledge and with light. Biomedical scientists, a team you might not see, but behind the scenes they're working for your health and for your glee. From blood tests to cultures to tissues under glass, they analyze the data, making diagnosis pass. Monitoring treatment, a puzzle they unfold, the unsung heroes of healthcare with more than purest gold. Medical lab assistants with precision in their hand, preparing slides and samples, making sure we understand the intricate details, the messages within. They ensure the results are accurate to fight against the wind. From blood tests to cultures to tissues under glass, they analyze the data, making diagnosis pass. Monitoring treatment, a puzzle they unfold, the unsung heroes of healthcare with more than purest gold. Clinical scientists with expertise so deep, They delve into the mysteries secrets diseases keep, developing new tests, pushing boundaries wide for better diagnosis with knowledge as their guide. From blood tests to cultures to tissues under glass, they analyze the data, making diagnosis pass. Monitoring treatment, a puzzle they unfold, the unsung heroes of healthcare with more than purest gold. So raise a glass to these heroes on Biomedical Science Day. For the health of every patient, they pave a clearer way. Their dedication, knowledge, a force you can't deny. The silent warriors of medicine with a twinkle in their eye. Hospital, a different kind of fight, not with scalpels or with stitches, but with knowledge and with light. Biomedical scientists, a team you might not see, but behind the scenes they're working for your health and for your glee. From blood tests to cultures to tissues under glass, they analyze the data, making diagnosis pass. Monitoring treatment, a puzzle they unfold, the unsung heroes of healthcare with more than purest gold. Medical lab assistants with precision in their hand, preparing slides and samples, making sure we understand the intricate details, the messages within. They ensure the results are accurate to fight against the wind. From blood tests to cultures to tissues under glass, they analyze the data, making diagnosis pass. Monitoring treatment, a puzzle they unfold, the unsung heroes of healthcare with more than purest gold. Clinical scientists with expertise so deep, they delve into the mysteries secrets diseases keep, developing new tests, pushing boundaries wide for better diagnosis with knowledge as their guide. From blood tests to cultures to tissues under glass, they analyze the data, making diagnosis pass. Monitoring treatment, a puzzle they unfold, the unsung heroes of healthcare with more than purest gold. So raise a glass to these heroes on Biomedical Science Day. For the health of every patient, they pave a clearer way. Their dedication, knowledge, a force you can't deny. The silent warriors of medicine with a twinkle in their eye.
All right. Good evening once again, colleagues. We are in day 9 of our workshop, and today we are having with us Dr. Francis Abeku Osha, who is an astute medical laboratory scientist with over 2 decades of practice experience. He started his professional career somewhere 1994 with a certificate in medical laboratory science from the School of Medical Laboratory Technology, Kolebu. and rose up through the ranks with a diploma in medical laboratory science, a BSc in medical laboratory science, a Master of Philosophy in Hematology from the University of Ghana, a Doctor of Medical Laboratory Science from the University for Development Studies, and currently he is a PhD candidate at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Kumasi, reading molecular medicine. Dr. Francis Abeku-Osha is also a fellow of the West African Postgraduate College of Medical Laboratory Science with the Faculty of Hematology, and has served on many committees and has led Gamls as the Eastern Regional Chairman. He's currently the chairperson of the Profession-Specific Committee of the Allied Health Professions Council, as well as the chairperson of the Disciplinary and the Judicial Committee of our professional body. And so, Dr. Osha, you are welcome to today's presentation, and I hand over the floor to you. Thank you. Doc, can you hear me?
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. G. Yes, please, can you hear me? Please, can I be heard?
Yes, please, you can be heard.
Yes, you can be heard.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm just praying that doomsday will not affect me, so that I pray that I'll be able to finish this presentation before anything bad goes on. So thank you very much for the opportunity that you've given to me to share my thoughts. I'm most grateful to you. And also to the previous speakers last week and this week for the knowledge that they'll be able to impart onto us, and handing over the baton to me. Mine is not a technical one like this, but I hope it will go on well. So I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. Dr. GS, please, anytime my network is not good and you cannot hear me, you can always draw my attention so that I can switch to another network so that I'll be able to finish my presentation.
Very well.
So my topic is on code of ethics for medical defining responsibilities. Our responsibilities as medical laboratory professionals. That's what will be 2 sessions. It will be in 2 sessions. One that you are the code of ethics, and then what disciplinary procedures of the profession. So that's what we'll be doing today. So I indulge you. And the course of the presentation, maybe there will be some few interactions for you to also bring your thoughts, so that we will see how best we can address issues. So thank you very much. So this will be the outline of my presentation. I'll do some few definitions.
Doc, just to interrupt you, kindly display fully the slide.
Philosophy, and it's also an ethical issue.
Dr. Ansha, please display the slides in presentation mode so that the participant can see the writings very well. Thank you.
This thing I started too early. I'm only praying that God will see me through. So we also talk about professional responsibilities, and here we are talking about medical laboratory profession, our responsibility towards the global community, our responsibility towards the global community, our responsibility towards our clients, and our responsibility towards the other healthcare team members. So we need to know and understand them. And then we'll conclude and then acknowledgement and then reference. So these are so this is going to be the outline of my presentation. And these are a few objectives. So we are going to see how best we can support members and also help their interest to be able to serve the public well, how to instill professionalism and competency in, and how to appreciate the laws, the rules, and the regulations of medical laboratory science, and some few ethical issues, and so on and so forth are some of the objectives that we want to achieve. But first and foremost, I want to make a case for members here listening to me that medical laboratory science is a profession. And so if it's a profession, then everybody working in the medical laboratory science in that space is a professional. And this one, I want to hit it hard and to let you know, especially in the phase of our preparation towards this strike action. I just want you to know that you are a professional working in the profession, and therefore that's how you should see yourself. Okay, that's what I want you to know. So a profession refers to an occupation that involved special education, knowledge, training, and ethics. You see that I've highlighted the ethics. It means that as a profession, you are guided by some ethical considerations. Now, professional is anybody who possesses that specialized knowledge, skill, and expertise in the field of study. And so if you are a professional, then you should exhibit professionalism. If you are a professional, then you should exhibit professionalism. And what is professionalism? We are talking about the conduct or the qualities that marks you as a professional. You know that there are some attitude or some people, somebody can stand somewhere and say that this person, is he be a professional at all? Because they look at the way the person talks, they look at the way the person holds himself, they look at the way the person performs his activities, then they can say that no, this person is not a professional. Even though he's working as a that and things, it's not an indication that the person is professional, because the person is not exhibiting anything close to professionalism. So we'll talk more about it. And code of ethics is a set of principles and guidelines that outline the ethical standards and emphasis on responsibilities to guide the conduct of a particular profession. And so as a medical laboratory professional, you are not just a professional because you work in the laboratory. You are a professional because you abide by the principles and guidelines that governs the profession that you are working. And so you cannot be working in the laboratory and then you say that for you not follow the principle and guidelines of the profession. That would be very bad. And so you can have the skills, you can have the knowledge to perform your laboratory test, but you should be able to subject yourself to the principles and guidelines of the profession. Okay, and you should know and understand the responsibilities of the profession that you have joined. If you are not able to do that, then you cannot call yourself a professional. Again, we always make mention of these two things, the profession and then the practice. The profession and then the practice. The profession of medical laboratory is a distinct profession that is duly recognized by ILO, WAHO, WHO, EU, and other organizations, international organizations. And so our profession of medical lab is not just any ordinary profession that anybody can look down on. We are a profession that is internationally recognized. So take note of that. And its practice is characterized by its own unique body of knowledge and scope of practice. It certifies its practitioners and requires of its practitioners impeccable competency. We'll talk more about competency in due course. So the profession and practice of medical laboratory is very, very important. Now, so in Ghana, who do we refer to as a medical laboratory professional? The person we consider medical laboratory science professional is the person who has acquired to be able to work in the lab. Two, the person should have been a registered member of the professional body. And three, the person should have been licensed by the Allied Health Professions Council, which is the regulatory body. These are the three criteria that the person should be able to possess before we say that's a medical laboratory professional. Again, in Ghana, these are the category of registered medical laboratory practitioners that we have. We have the medical laboratory assistant, the technicians, the scientists, the specialists, and then the consultants. I have highlighted the laboratory assistants because currently they are not being registered by Allied Health Profession Council, even though we have people still working in the laboratory as lab assistant. And whilst you are still working in the lab as lab assistant, you should conform to regulations and rules of the profession that you have joined. A lab assistant you are not registered by and licensed by Allah Health, but to the extent that you will perform an activity in the laboratory, your activity will have to follow the laid down rules and regulations. So, I've put here what is ethics and what is professional code of ethics. Professional code of ethics and then ethics. We said that ethics refer to the moral principles, values, and standards that guide human behavior and decision making. What is wrong, what is good, what is bad, the do's and don'ts of a profession is what we refer to as ethics. It involves critical thinking, reflection, and judgment to determine the best course of action. So I'm interested in where it talks about ethics involving critical thinking, reflection, and judgment to determine the best course. So my first question that I want you to put your response in the chat box. In the chat box. The first one is that, let's say a case study that you have, for example, at the blood bank, and somebody has donated blood to be used tomorrow, and need a blood person who needs the blood urgently to be, or you are going to keep the blood tomorrow. So this is a case study that I want you to put your comments in the chat box. So I want to repeat the question or the case. The case is that you are the blood bank. Somebody has donated blood for surgery to be used tomorrow. Whilst on duty this evening, another urgent case came that requires that you release the 2 units that has been kept for the person for tomorrow. You release it this evening. What are you going to do? Are you going to release it, or you are not going to release it? That is the question. So you can put your response in the chat box. Okay. So professional code of ethics. Professional code of ethics. We are talking about a set of principles, rules, and guidelines that outline the expected behavior and conduct of a particular group of professions or organization. It provides a clear and concise framework for decision-making and action, and it is often written, formal, and enforced by the governing body or the professional association. As you may be aware, over the years, we didn't have, as a professional body, we didn't have any code of ethics. And last year, the president formed a committee or through NEC for us to develop code of ethics. Prior to that, we were using IFBMLS document as our reference point for code of ethics. And now we have developed our own code of ethics that has been accepted by NEC and has also been accepted by Congress. What it means is that now we have penned something down, and then so it now becomes a reference point for us all. So if there's any issue, if there's any problem, the first thing we pull is our own professional guidelines. Whether you follow the professional guidelines or you do not follow the professional guidelines. Indeed, if you have any case and it goes to court, the first thing the court will demand is your constitution They will also request of your code of ethics, your code of conduct. So in their ruling, they will do the ruling based on your own guidelines that you have developed. And that's why this is very important, so that you open your mind to the things that you are supposed to know as professionals. Now, ethics and professionalism. Ethics and professionalism. So it is not adequate for you to have knowledge and skills. You need to acquire good behavior before you can espouse professionalism. You cannot espouse professionalism if you do not have a good behavior. You can be the best. You can be the most skillful person in the lab. You can be the most knowledgeable person in the lab. If your behavior, your morals, and integrity is not good, there's no way you can exhibit professionalism. So let's take note of it. So you need these three qualities to be able to declare or espouse that you have professionalism. Let's take note of this. Again, let me also remind you that we are also operating under ISO 15189-2022, and that is our international standard. If anybody is going to make reference to your practice, the person will make reference to your ISO 15189. Are you implementing the requirement of the ISO 15189? Will be the question that anybody will ask you. And so we are guided by the ISO 15189, the current version. And then also you should also remember that there are also organizations and other regulations that we also work with. And so we are also guided by their rules and also their regulations. Now you see these plenty things. I brought them here and I want us to take time and then go through it. The medical, there are some things that are blocking me. Medical laboratory science profession. So this is what we are worth. This is what we are worth. There are so many things that we are not doing in the laboratory. And so we limit ourselves to the few things that we do in the laboratory and think that that is the only thing that we do. And because of that, it even affects us when we go for job evaluations and other things, because we are limited by the things that we do in the laboratory, forgetting that there are so many other things that we are supposed to do and we are not doing them. So let me take you through and just remind ourselves that we are capable, and in fact, we are supposed and responsible to our clients to perform all these laboratory investigations. If you are not doing it, it is another thing, but you should know that these are the things we are supposed to do. So the profession of medical laboratory or its practice refers to involving the analysis of human. Something is blocking me. Okay. Involving the analysis of human tissues, body fluids, excretions, and other materials derived from the human body and the environment, production of biological designs, and fabrication of equipment for the purpose of providing scientific information for the diagnosis, research, management, prevention, treatment, and monitoring of disease in or assessment of the health of human beings, and which may provide a consultant advisory service covering all aspects of medical laboratory investigations, including the validation of test results, procedures, kits, equipment, and advice on future appropriate investigations. Interpretation of results and this examination also include preparation of reagent sampling, procedures for determining calibration of test equipment, equipment verification and validation, and measuring or otherwise describing the presence or absence of various substances or microorganisms, and involves clinical application of the process of fertilization, early cell division, differentiation, and development of organs and cells in embryo, and application of techniques such as in vitro fertilization, embryo transfer, and handling of eggs and sperms and their manipulations outside the body to create viable and euploid embryos for transfer into the uterus. This is the longest sentence that I've ever seen. So this is the current scope of practice definition of medical laboratory science in Ghana. This is our current definition of our scope of practice. And so we should equip our minds and ourselves to this so that anytime anybody calls you and asks you of your functions, of your roles, of your responsibilities in the healthcare delivery team, you don't limit yourself to only stool and urine testing, okay? And that our scope is so wide, it covers everything in the healthcare delivery system in terms of testing. So that's why I've taken my time to put this thing here. And that is the current definitions that we have as a profession. Okay, the B aspect, so it includes medical, bacteriology, mycology, virology, parasitology, chemical pathology, hematology, blood transfusion science, histopathology, histochemistry, immunology, endocrinology, embryology, toxicology, cytogenetics, exfoliative cytology, forensic science, molecular biology, epidemiology, jurisprudence and ethics, bioinformatics, laboratory leadership, management, leadership and management, laboratory quality management, health and safety management, public health. This is even just to mention few. So you see that, so we have a wide scope of laboratory investigation. The last time the team led by Honorable Amuzu put up together our test menu. The test menu that we are supposed to perform as medical laboratory science is over 1,000. Yet the ones that we perform currently perhaps is less than even 50 or 20. So what is happening to the rest? So this is to let you know that our role in the healthcare delivery system, are we performing it to the best of our ability, or we are just performing it halfway? And these are all ethical issues. Again, you should know and understand the philosophy of Gamls, or the philosophy of the professional body. What do we stand for? What do we stand for? What is our existence? What is the reason for our existence? What is our value? What is our thinking? What do we stand for? That is the philosophy of Gamls. So we stand for quality. We stand for quality service because we want to provide quality diagnostic services that is able to provide accurate and reliable results to our patients, to our clients, for the purposes of diagnosis, for the purposes of treatment, monitoring, and management of disease. That is our prime concern. Our philosophy also to ensure that we also practice in professionalism, high level of professionalism with integrity. Okay. We also stand for collaboration. Okay, collaboration that will benefit the client, so that wherever we find ourselves, we are able to collaborate with other healthcare service providers, so that at the end of it all, our client will benefit. So we collaborate with the nurses, the physicians, the other healthcare providers, all in the interest of our clients. Then advocacy. Advocacy. How do we advocate? We advocate, and in recent times, we have seen that we have been doing some form of advocacy. When the COVID-19 came, you saw the role that we played in the advocacy. I'm not too sure, for example, whether in terms of advocacy, since this Galamsey became an issue, whether we have played our role in advocacy in that direction. I'm not too sure about that. But I also do remember that when the Akosombo Dam spillage occurred, that we also did some advocacy. So as a professional body, we are entitled to advocate for anything to ensure that policies are well formulated in the interest of Ghanaians in general. Innovation, we also want to ensure that we put in place a system that is innovative to be able to provide quality service delivery system to our patients. We want to be committed to up-to-date practices in the industry, so that at any point in time, we know the new developments that are in the system, so that it will inform us in the services that we are giving to our patients. And as you are aware, over the period of time, in terms of laboratory services, you will realize that there have been some improvement in the services from the time that we joined about 25 years up to now. A lot of innovations, a lot of advancement has taken place in the laboratory services. Okay, so we should explore new technologies and techniques, okay, that can improve our diagnostic services. So these technologies and techniques may not be found in only one laboratory, but once some laboratories have some form of technologies that we can refer samples to improve our diagnostic services, we can take it that they all play the same role. Supervision. So we help the regulator to monitor, guide, and support members and service providers to ensure that medical laboratories service are of high quality and they meet the required standards. So we also want to ensure that we provide the necessary supervision to all those who need it to be able to ensure that we get good delivery of our services. Now, so again, we should also look at our core values. What are our core values as a professional body? What is our core value? Our core value is knowledge-driven. Knowledge-driven. You want professionals who are knowledgeable, who are yearning for knowledge, who want to be educated, who are more learned, and anytime they are called upon, they are able to express their knowledge in the interest of the profession. Knowledge-driven personnel. Now we're also talking about competence. Competence, I've highlighted competence, confidentiality, impartiality, to talk about them as in a separate slide. But I've highlighted loyalty, because loyalty is very, very key to me. When we say loyalty, what does it mean? We are talking about commitment. We are talking about dedication, commitment, dedication, dependability, allegiance. Okay, if you are a professional, where lies your allegiance? Where lies your allegiance? Fidelity. Okay, is your allegiance to the profession, is your allegiance to the leadership of the profession. If you are in the laboratory, it's your allegiance towards the head of your lab. Where lies your allegiance? We've had several instances where laboratory people have meeting, and then immediately the meeting is over, the medical director will call that he has said everything that was discussed in the laboratory. That's unbelievable. Where lies your loyalty? Where lies your allegiance? Are you faithful? Are you trustworthy? So, for example, this strike that we want to embark on, this is the time that you want to know whether you are actually loyal to the union that you belong, whether you are actually loyal to the leadership of the profession, or you are not loyal. So it is a test. But every professional, so-called professional who belong to a profession, your allegiance is towards the leadership of the profession, the leadership of the union. You should be committed and dedicated to the work of your profession. You should be dedicated and committed to the head of your laboratory that you work under, your unit supervisors. That is loyalty. Let's take note of these things. Integrity. When we talk about integrity, we are talking about honesty, ethical, whether you are accountable to the decisions and the actions that is taken. Integrity, honest. Are you an honest person who have the moral? Okay. Are you authentic? Can they rely on you? Are you time conscious? These are all professional ethics that you want to abide. Safety, the actions that you take in the laboratory, does it protect you? Does it also protect your clients and other people who use the services of the laboratory? Okay, so all these things are things that you have to, anytime you are working, you should be informed about it. Now, you know that I am biased. I am biased towards ISO and quality management system. But before I even continue, let me, my second case is that there was please pay attention because I cannot even repeat the question. So the second case is that we have a lab scientist who went outside for further studies. So he came back after several years and wanted to be reinstituted to his workplace. So he came to meet the medical director. But the medical director he came to meet that doesn't know the lab scientist who has returned from abroad. So, I mean, the interaction between them wasn't too good. You know, the medical director didn't show so much respect to the lab scientist. So the lab scientist also, you know. So after the encounter with the director, the lab scientist descended and they met a driver, one of the hospital drivers. So he knew the driver before he went abroad. So when he descended, he met him, old friendship sake. So he asked the driver to send him home. So the driver did that. First, they were going. The lab scientist told the driver everything that happened with his encounter with the medical director. So he said that the director is this, the director is this. He said this and this and this and this. Now, when the driver returned after going to drop the lab scientist, he came straight to the director and informed the director whatever the lab scientist told him. So the following day, the lab scientist came back as a follow-up to come and see the director. And the director said, hey, my friend, you have come in. So you are the one who said, I am this. The lab scientist said, no, I didn't say all this. Then the director said, okay, you which? Then he called his driver. Then the driver came. You said that this lab scientist said, and this and this. He said, yes, director, he said it. And he even said something. I've even forgot to add to it. So excuse my language. So he said, director, there and then, the lab scientist just left the director's office, and that was the end. So the question is it loyalty or it is sycophancy or bootlicking? What the driver did. Obviously, the driver was the driver of the director, but the lab scientist didn't know. So is it an issue of loyalty of the driver to the medical director, or it is an issue of bootlicking or sycophancy? That is my second question. You can put your response in the chat box. Thank you very much. So as I was saying, my bias is always towards the ISO 15189. That is the international standard for quality and competence of medical laboratory practice, the requirement for quality and competence. And again, as you may also be aware, my bias is also towards quality management systems. And so the rest of the presentation, I will be making references to the ISO and to quality management system. Okay, so the issue about competence, competence has come in over and over and over. And so when we are talking about profession and professionalism, we are talking about competence, competency. The quality of laboratory results depends or hinges on the competence of the individual performing the test and the competence of the whole system. The competence of the system and the competence of the individual lab scientists working together provide or gives us quality results. If the system is not competent, the individuals are not competent, then you are not going to get quality results. And so therefore, competence or competency is very, very important. Now, the ISO, the third version of the ISO, that's the 2012 ISO, define competence as ability to apply knowledge and skills to achieve intended results. The ability. So if you have ability to apply knowledge and skills, then we say that you are competent. But the current ISO, the 2022 version, has added demonstrated. So there's a difference between ability to apply knowledge and skills and then demonstrated ability to apply knowledge and skills to achieve results. And this addition is very, very critical. The addition of demonstrated is very, very critical in competency. Okay, so when we say demonstrated ability, so if you have the knowledge and skills, you should show us, not by mouth, but you should show us by other certification. You should show us through any means that you actually have the knowledge and you have the skills. this has become very, very critical. So competency now, the ISO has taken it serious, because without competency, you are not able to achieve quality results. And when we say, so competency is about knowledge and skills. We have people who have skills, but they do not have knowledge. We have people who have knowledge, but they do not have skills. In order to be competent, you need to have combination of knowledge and skills to be able to say that you are competent. And if you are competent, then you have to demonstrate it with other attestation, other certificate, or anything to show that you are actually competent. So you don't become competent just by mouth. So in that vein, if you are a laboratory director or a laboratory manager, whose responsibility is to ensure that you admit people into your laboratory to perform their duties or the duties that you ask them to perform, we want to ensure that you yourself, you are competent, you have the required competency, and you also admit people who are competent to be able to perform the activity for which you are going to assign them to do. If you are not able to do that, then you have failed your responsibility as the laboratory director. What does the ISO say about the laboratory director? It said the laboratory director shall be directed, the laboratory shall be directed by a person or persons, however named, with the specified qualification, competence, delegated authority, responsibility, and resources to fulfill the requirement of this ISO standard. So once, if your medical director delegates his responsibility or authority to you by writing a letter to you, to everybody, that you are now the laboratory manager, then he did that based on your qualification, based on your competency and everything. So we expect that people that you also admit into your laboratory have the same competency or have the competency to be able to perform the activities that you are going to assign to them. If you do not do that, it means that you are not fulfilling the requirement. Again, personnel, the standard says the laboratory shall have access to sufficient number of competent persons to perform should be a demonstrated competency with certificates and things. So if somebody is, let's say, doing microscopy, BF microscopy, the person may have some knowledge about it. So where is that person's certificate, or where is the person's assessment form that you have done to indicate that the person is competent? So that has become critical. Again, all personnel, emphasis, all personnel of the laboratory, either internal or external, that could influence the laboratory's activities shall act impartially, ethically, be competent, and work in accordance with the laboratory management system. All personnel, whether the person is an internal staff or the person is an external staff, wherever the person may be, the person should subject himself to the laboratory's management system. The competency of the person, either internal or external, should be the same. And you don't say that once this person is outside. So, for example, if somebody is doing testing, okay, somebody is doing testing, POCT outside the laboratory, it is your responsibility to ensure that that person is competent, the person that is doing that. I'll come to POCT, and then you understand this better. So now the point I'm making here is that anybody working in the laboratory should have the required qualification, should have the required competency, and you should demonstrate the competency with something. You should demonstrate it with something. Now, we'll also talk about impartiality. Impartiality as part of our core value, impartiality. Laboratory activities shall be undertaken impartially. Impartially. The laboratory shall be structured and managed to safeguard impartiality. The laboratory management shall be committed to impartiality. And we say that the laboratory shall be responsible for the impartiality of its laboratory activities and shall not allow commercial, financial, or other pressures to compromise impartiality. Impartiality, too, is also a very important issue that you also have to guide against. In impartiality, we are talking about fairness. We are talking about justice, fairness, okay, giving everybody the equal chance, everybody the equal opportunity, okay, impartiality. So that's what every laboratory scientist must ensure impartiality. Just a minute. All right. Now, again, our motto says service to humanity. Service to humanity. Over the period since I joined the medical lab and I heard about the service to humanity, but I have not taken my time to look at what service to humanity is even all about. I never even considered it. But whilst preparing for this, I say as a professional, one of our code of ethics, we said that our motto is service to humanity. So let me look for service to humanity. And I came across this. That when we say service to humanity, then it means that you do something to improve human conditions. So anytime we are working, or if we are not even working, wherever we find ourselves, we should seek to improve human conditions. We should also seek to promote health and well-being of others. You see, as lab scientists, we also live in a community. Okay, we attend functions, we attend church, mosque, we attend so many programs and activities. If we say our motto is service to humanity, then wherever we find ourselves, we want to ensure that we do some of these things. Volunteering work. Okay, we have to be selfless contributions, advocate for justice and human rights, compassion. We should have compassion and kindness. We should also promote cultural understanding and beliefs. These are all characteristics of service to humanity. But do we do them? So, for example, you go to, let's say you are in the church, and they say that somebody has collapsed, and they need a health worker to come around. Do we go there at all to even look at the situation and see whether we could even prefer some direction or any assistance? Do we do that? Okay, so volunteering work. So for example, when the Akosombo spillage came, We have our colleagues in the Volta region trying to mobilize something to go and support the victims of the unfortunate incident, and that is volunteering work, and that is good, and because that's what we stand for: service to humanity. Or let's say you are in a flight, and then somebody falls sick, and then they ask whether there's any health worker at all in the plane. Then you are certain that you don't consider yourself to be as a health worker to be able to provide the necessary support to whoever needs it. Then we are not providing service to humanity, because service to humanity is about promoting health and well-being of others. Selfless contribution, volunteering, advocate for justice. Wherever you find yourself, you have to advocate for justice and human rights. Don't just sit down and keep quiet and leave it for some people to speak. You should speak for justice and human rights, and so on and so forth. Service to humanity. Now, this is our old friend, the quality assurance cycle. We are all used to this. So we know of the pre-analytical phase, the analytical phase, and then the post-analytical phase, and all the activities that takes place there. I brought this thing in here to see if I can link the activities that goes on here one way or the other directly to the code of ethics of medical laboratory professions or professionals. So when you talk about the pre-analytical stage, all these activities takes place there, and all these people are involved. So we have the patient relative, the nurses, the doctors, and all those people, phlebotomists, and all those people are involved in that activity. Okay, and in that activity, there are a lot of ethical issues that goes on there. Then when you come to the testing side, that requires that the lab scientists perform its activities with competence and ensure quality control and proficiency testing are done. That one to their ethical issues there, and then the post analytical stage. So let's take the pre-analytical issues and let's see what are the possible ethical issues that could be involved here. So the first one we talked is about respect for persons and whether consent must be understood by the patient. So how do we handle patients when they come to the laboratory for their samples to be taken? How do you seek for their consent? Do you explain the processes to the patient? Do you give them the option whether they have every right to reject the sample collection and all those things? These are ethical issues that we are engaging when the patient. So the respect for the person. Is there any privacy? Is there any confidentiality at that stage? And all those things are issues that are of ethical consideration here. Beneficent. To what benefit is the patient going to get from this test that you are even going to perform on the person? Ethical issues here. During the period of sample collection, okay, whoever is taking the sample, is the person trained, is the person competent to take the sample, so that the person doesn't just infringe some pain into the patient by the insertion of the needles. And then the justice, it provides access to several laboratory tests at reasonable cost. Okay, so we are talking about justice here. So for example, so somebody comes to the lab to say he's coming to do liver function test because liver function test is what the doctor has requested. That's fine. But he comes to the laboratory and they say liver function test is 50 Ghana cedis. Is this person capable of paying all the 50,000 cedis to do the liver function test? Or the person can pay 20 or 30 cedis to get total protein, total bilirubin, and other tests performed, instead of insisting that the person paid the whole 50 cedis to do the whole liver function test, when actually you can do something for the person to pay less so that some tests can be selected for the person to do. Okay, we want justice, and people don't have money. And so you should find ways and means to ensure that you have compassion for people to be able to do their laboratory investigation without any much stress. On the analytical stage, we're talking about confidentiality, quality, and competency. Okay, so the respect of person after collecting and processing sample, patients have the right to refuse to have their specimen examined. We've had instances where we collected or we took a patient sample, and then after some time, the patient came back and said that, I don't want my test to be done, I want my sample back. You have to respect that, okay? You have to respect that. The aim of the laboratory is to make available the best possible results to patients. This is accomplished through good laboratory practices, quality assurance program, and maintaining high professional standards. And you achieve that through quality control analysis, proficiency testing, and accreditation of the laboratory. Okay, the patient has paid money to do a test. So we want to ensure that you get the best out of the test that he has come to pay. And so if you do not follow the necessary quality assurance program for the patient to get accurate, reliable results, and then the patient has to go to another lab and pay another money to get the test performed, then it means that we are doing great disservice to the patient. And that is also an ethical issue. Okay, and justice, there should be no discrimination in examination of patients' samples based on gender, age, and then or race. The post-analytical phase 2 includes reporting and interpretation of test results, storage of residual samples, and access to the data. So the patients reasonably expect that their specimen will not be used beyond the testing prescribed by the clinician and solely used for only prescribed testing for medical purposes. Of course, so the patients come now, the new ISO is suggesting that if a patient comes to the hospital or the laboratory, what you should do is that you should seek the consent of the patient that the sample that the patient is taking or we are taking from the patient, the sample could be used for the purposes of research, or the results or the data that is obtained from his sample could be used for the purposes of research. So that consideration is also there, that we'll talk about it later. Okay, and so on and so forth. So now, what is our responsibility as laboratory practitioners? I've said it in many occasions, but let's just this as a summary. Our key responsibility is performing laboratory tests. Performing laboratory tests. That is our key responsibility in the healthcare delivery team. In the healthcare delivery team, there's nobody who has been assigned to perform laboratory tests apart from medical laboratory professional. Now, any other person who performs laboratory testing should do that under the control of the medical laboratory scientist, whether a pharmacist or a nurse or whoever performs laboratory tests, do that without any reference or any course from the laboratory scientist. I'll talk about POCT. There is our responsibility to ensure that quality control and quality assurance is also performed, that the data that you collect in the laboratory are analyzed and interpreted, So we collect a lot of data. Apart from the patient data, we also collect so many indicators. We have laboratory indicators and other data that we take in the laboratory. And we are saying that it's our responsibility to make sure that we analyze all these data and interpret this data to able to help us to improve our service delivery. Okay, for opportunity for improvement. Troubleshooting and problem solving, that's our responsibility. Laboratory safety and compliance, documentation and record keeping is our responsibility to ensure that all the laboratory tests that we do, we have documentation on all of them, SOPs on all of them to guide us on how to perform these tests. Then continuous learning and professional development. So all these are responsibilities of a laboratory professional. Now, performing laboratory tests, as stated in the ISO, it says a person with appropriate training and experience shall be appointed to manage training and competency assessment of personnel performing POCT. So it's the responsibility of the laboratory to put a system in place to ensure that any person who perform any POCT is trained and competent to be able to do so. And that is very important because anything that the person, if the person make any mistake in the test the person is going to perform, is going to affect the diagnosis, the management, treatment, and the monitoring of the patient. And it also go against the laboratory, okay, because it is testing. And so we should be concerned about it. So it is like if you are a referral hospital, and then you are concerned in reducing maternal mortality in your hospital, and you are not interested in whatever goes on in the peripheral blood, in the peripheral hospitals, then how can you achieve your reduction in maternal mortality? Because if the cases at the peripheral facilities are bad, they will refer them to your hospital, and then they will come and die there in your hospital, and then your mortality will go high. So you should be interested in what they do at their facilities so that they stop bringing back cases to you. So the same thing. So anybody who is performing POCT, wherever the person is doing it, either pharmacy or the nursing, you should be concerned. And if a laboratory are not concerned about it, it goes against the laboratory. It goes against the laboratory during assessment. If you are a laboratory and you are doing POCT and you are not interested in it, it goes against you. Now, in terms of data analysis and interpretation, say the laboratory shall have access to the data and information that is needed to perform laboratory activities. Okay, so I've put some resource here, and I'm sure I can see it, and I'm sure you can also see it. So my third question is this resource, full black count result that we are seeing. This is result that is ready to go out. The question is this resource a raw data, an analyzed data, or an interpreted data? That is the third question that you can put your response in the chat box. So look at the resource that is going out. So this is ABC. A is it a raw data, or it is a data that has been analyzed, or it is a data that has been interpreted. So you choose either A or B or C. That is the third question. Now, in terms of documentation, that one of our code of ethics is that we should ensure that our laboratory document every activity that they perform. According to the ISO, it says that the laboratory shall document its examination procedures to the extent that is necessary to ensure the consistent application of its activities and the validity of its results. So this is telling us that every activity that we perform in the laboratory, in terms of examination, we should have document on how this activity is supposed to be performed. So that's what we refer to as our SOPs. The code of conduct is that we should document and keep records of all our activities that we perform in the laboratory. And it should be written in a language that should be understood by everybody. Yes. Now, you've talked about our responsibilities as laboratory professionals. Now we're talking about our responsibilities or our duties to our society and to our community. What is our responsibility towards the society? What is our responsibility towards the community? Okay, so our responsibility is that you are supposed to provide reliable diagnostic services. We are supposed to ensure quality and, of course, public health surveillance. If there's going to be any disease, the laboratory should be the first to pick it up. Of course, together with the public health team, the laboratory play a critical role in picking up disease. Okay, in disease surveillance. If we fail to do this, it means that we have failed the whole society and the whole community. And so we should pay attention to that. Education and awareness. Okay, collaboration with multidisciplinary teams. Fortunately for us in the health, unlike education, we have so many professionals in the healthcare delivery system, and we should be able to collaborate among ourselves. If we're able to collaborate among ourselves as a multidisciplinary team, like a lot of health problems will be solved. But unfortunately, it seems we work in silos. Okay, each profession or professional body is working on its own without any unity. And if we're able to do collaborative work, then it will have improved our research and innovation. Okay, can you imagine that you have a team made up of lab scientists, physicians, nurses, nutrition officers, and so on and so forth? We put together a proposal, we write for grants and do work in the attempt to solve problems. Okay, we have that strength, but unfortunately, we are not using that strength. Then ethical conduct and professional integrity. Then we also have duty to our clients. And when we talk of our clients, then we are also talking about the patients, okay, and to some extent, the other users of the lab. So to our clients, we are talking of accurate and timely testing. We are talking about confidentiality and privacy, instilling confidence in our patient, having effective communication, patient advocacy and education, and then support. So in terms of confidentiality in the ISO is stated that you want to ensure privacy and then confidentiality. So the laboratory shall be responsible through legally enforceable agreement for the management of all patient information obtained or created during the performance of laboratory activities. Management of patient information shall include privacy, confidentiality. And so as lab professionals, we want to ensure the privacy and then the confidentiality of the patients at all times. Now, again, our code of ethics also talks about duty to our colleagues. We ourselves as lab professionals, our responsibility to ourselves, to our fellow colleagues, to other healthcare team members. We also have a responsibility towards them. So look at it this way. I've thought about the responsibility of the laboratory professional to the global community or the society. Then I've also talked about our responsibility towards our client. And I'm also talking now about our responsibility towards the team, the healthcare team, and among ourselves. So we have to build collaboration and teamwork, okay, ensure professional behavior and ethics. Then continuous education and professional development is also key. So as a professional, so if you entered as a laboratory scientist, you entered as a lab assistant, we do not expect you to continue to remain as a lab scientist. You should have continuing education. So we expect you that as lab scientist, you move to become a technician, you move to become a lab scientist, and then you move on. It cannot be said that for you, since you came to the lab 30 years ago as lab technician, you have not made any effort to add any more knowledge to yourself. Then you cannot be said to be a professional. Even though you are a lab technician, if you have not gained any additional educational qualification to what you have 30 years, 25, 20 years, 15 years, then you cannot consider yourself to be professional. As a professional, you should have continuing education and also continuous professional development. So it should also not be said again that for you there, you said that you know anything. You said that you know everything. Anytime the CPD program, oh, what are they going to say? After all, it's the same thing that they are going to talk about. So you are always like that. And for 5, 10 years, you have never attended any workshop. You have never attended any training program, no CPD program, nothing. And you are still eating and drinking, and you want to still be considered as a professional. You cannot. And so perhaps as time goes on, we'll be checking some of these things critically. We want to ensure that people develop themselves academically and also professionally. Let's take note of it. Mentoring. So we should also have to mentor ourselves, mentors and mentees. People should avail themselves to be mentored, okay? Engage in professional networking, promote best practices and quality improvement, and also professional advocacy. And so when we talk about continuing education and professional development, according to the ISO, it said a continuing education program shall be available to personnel who participate in managerial and technical process. So you cannot be a lab manager and you say that for you, you will not subject yourself to continuing education program, or you cannot be a technical staff and not subject yourself to this. So evidence will be, you'll be looking for evidence to see whether you actually, that's why we say you should keep your files in the office so that when you do these trainings, you put them in your files so that we'll be able to access it. All personnel shall participate in continuing education and regular professional development or other professional liaison activities. So this is what the ISO is saying. All, emphasis, all personnel shall participate in continuing education. So perhaps in the future, we have to even define how long you should continue to stay as a lab assistant before you decide to move on to lab technician. And if you are a lab technician, how long can you decide that I want to be a technician for 10 years before you move to become a lab scientist? So it's a course of something that you should think about. So as profession that we are developing, members cannot decide on their own to do anything that they like. They have to be guided by this code of ethics. So these are a few characteristics of ethical behavior, which we've talked about all of them: honesty, transparency, respect for others' right and dignity, responsibility and accountability, fairness and justice, compassion and empathy, integrity, trustworthiness, respect of the laws and regulations of the country and of the profession, protection of confidentiality and privacy, avoidance of harm and injury, and promotion of the greater good. These are some few characteristics of ethical behavior. So it is when you combine your skills, okay, you combine your skills with your knowledge, and then you add these ethical behaviors, then we are saying that you are ensuring professionalism. Okay, so you don't do the two and leave the other part. You should put all the three together, and then you can say that you are a professional. So let me conclude by saying that the code of conduct, ethics, and disciplinary procedures is developed to provide a set of ethical standards to guide our members. And adhering to this, we aim to inspire trust and engender confidence and respect from our colleagues, patients, and the wider healthcare community. And we shall commit to upholding these values, ethical principles, and standards while striving for excellence in our practice and continuously contribute to the advancement of healthcare in Ghana through our work as medical laboratory professionals. Let me acknowledge my other committee members who help in putting this document together, and my small boy, Abdullah Buhari, who is my TA, who has been helping me to prepare my slides. Thank you very much for the opportunity. These are some few references that can assist you. Thank you very much. Over to you.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Francis Osha, for a nice presentation. You have been able to blend a lot of things, including the standards, the code of ethics of the professional body, and other documents. So we are grateful. Dr. Adejesi, please, are you around? Okay, so if you look at the ISO 15189, the 2022 version, the fourth edition, it emphasizes on impartiality. And impartiality is one element of ethical behavior. I want you to throw some more light on impartiality in the sense that these days we have issues of professionals putting their self-interest above the patient interest. How can we work on this? And how can it affect the image of the profession?
Okay, thank you very much. Should I take that one or?
Yes, so you can take that one. I would, we'll ask some other questions, then we'll let the participants come in.
So you see, so the issue of impartiality is very, very critical. You see, and especially because of conflict of interest, in recent times, I hope we have heard of several issues about conflict of interest issues. For example, the alleged Attorney General issue and is it Japan? Is the name Japan?
That is so.
Yes. So conflict of interest and impartiality has become a major concern in recent times that every professional should be guided. So let's bring it down to our laboratory level. So we in the laboratory level. So let's use example like so somebody is coming to do tests, or somebody has done tests, and then after some time you are there and the person come to knock your door and say that boss, please, this is plantain. Last time you helped me, so I've come to give you plantain. So you accept it. So the next time the person comes, you not let the person join the queue. You want to attend to the person quick, and you are going to do that at the expense of other people who have come earlier on. So impartiality, it brings bias, it creates unfairness, okay, and it creates a lot of misunderstanding and confusion, and can bring the name of your laboratory into disrepute. And especially when we also have people, our colleagues who also have laboratories, and so we also want to refer samples or patients to their laboratories to get some tests done and things. Or it's all about impartiality and conflict of interest. It is this man, Kofi Wayo, who is alleged to have said that if you have a case in court, and then you are passing the day of judgment, you are passing by the judge's house, and you hear the goat crying, "Meh," forget the case. The case has been, the case is already sorted out, because the judge doesn't rear goat in the house. So if there's going to be a case, and then there's a goat crying in the judge's house, it means that the case is a done deal. Okay, so these are small things that we do that create a lot of problem, conflict of interest. Okay, and if you deal with suppliers, as lab manager, you deal with suppliers. You are a supplier yourself. You want to impose some supplies on the lab. So many things, and then it could cause a lot of problem for your lab. So impartiality issues becomes a major issue. I don't know whether it could also cause a lot of conflict in the laboratory that you have to take a long time for you to resolve. Because this is recorded, I don't want to go further. I don't want to go further with more examples. So I hope I've been able to answer the issue of impartiality to some extent. Yes.
You have done justice to it. And so, just to contribute to it, so the standard is also trying to emphasize the fact that all users of the lab, including people who provide external services, people who provide referral services to us, people who purchase items from will have to act impartially. So these are some of the things we have to note. It is not just about the professional, it's about other people who have some work to do or interface with the lab. So let's look at all these things and see it as a duty of care to the patients and our institutions. So on that note, I will invite Dr. Honesty Ganu. And we can raise our hands if we want to contribute and ask questions. Thank you.
All right. Good evening. Thank you, Nana Dr. Osha, for sharing your knowledge with us this evening. I have one question yes, the scenario you created, it borders on ethics. So the scenario you narrated where a patient, having submitted him or herself to a laboratory investigation, suddenly have a change of mind, is demanding for the return of samples that we may have collected for investigation purposes. In as much as this may be within the right of the patients, how ethical is it for us as laboratory professionals to hand over this specimen back to these patients, knowing very well that this is an untrained mind and may not be, we may not have the requisite skill knowledge as to how to properly dispose of this specimen so that it does not become a health hazard to the public and the environment in general. How ethical is it for us to do that?
Yes. So that is good, Doc, for bringing this up. Indeed. So as you really you indicated, if the person does not want the test to be performed, that is fine. But also giving the sample back to the person when we are not in the position to tell how the person is going to handle or manage the specimen, then we could agree on something between us and then the patient. That's fine. So you say you don't want the sample to be you don't want the test to be performed. That's okay. But we cannot give you the sample, but we will want to together agree to destroy the sample in your presence. In that case, we know that the sample is not worked on, one, and then two, we know that the patient is satisfied because we are also not keeping his sample for any purpose. Is that okay?
Dr. Ganu?
Yeah, I think that's good. That's good.
Okay.
No, thank you very much.
Okay, so Dr. Ernest Goka.
Yeah, and good evening, and thanks for the presentation. Hello.
Yes, Dr. Goka, please go ahead.
Yes, okay. So I want to throw more light on the conflict of interest because as laboratory professionals, where we are hoping that some of us become those entrepreneurs being able to render services of high quality. For instance, if any of us becomes a supplier, and then you have to supply goods to a facility you are working, that in itself creates a problem of conflict of interest. But that shouldn't stop you from tendering a process in another facility, because the good thing is that you are the scientist, you know how the things work. you are privileged to have a better idea on how most of these things work. And so you're in a better position to do some others, which comes in because you're trusted, you've used those things and know it. But in your facility, you can't be seen supplying items to the facility where you are working. Ideally, some also even have laboratory services. And it shouldn't be in that same area you are working. So these are some of the conflict of interest issues. But then it's encouraged that if you're entrepreneurs, you have the skill, you should know where you apply it. And I think the laws allow you to work along those lines. It's when it's affecting the work you are doing directly with the facility, that's where I think there's a problem. Thank you very much.
Dr. Goka, you are right. I don't think I have to even say anything to that. You are perfectly right. So we are encouraging our members to be entrepreneurs, and we want them to establish, we have been saying that if you're a laboratory professional, at the end of it, or since it's a vocation, we want you to also own your own laboratory. So there's no problem with that. But where it conflicts with your work, okay, or you spend the time that you are supposed to be at your employer's place, you spend it at your lab, okay, and those stuff, picking things from your lab to from the public facility to your laboratory are the issues that are of serious concern and consequence. But you have every right to be a supplier. Indeed, even in your own hospital, you can even supply, but different items that are not linked to a laboratory, but you can register and supply any other items that are not related to the laboratory. And like you said, the laboratory services, you can locate your laboratory at a place that does not conflict with that of your hospital. So these are few thoughts that I want to add. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So we invite MLS June very much.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Please, I recently heard that once a client goes to a teaching hospital, like say Confanoche, the client has already consented for them to be used for studies. So I wanted to ask if the same works for the laboratories of the other facilities like district facilities. If a client enters the lab, have they automatically consented to whatever procedure is going to be performed on them? And my second question is, do lab professionals, are lab professionals supposed to have, let's say, witnesses in performing certain procedures like taking HVS sample or let's say urethral swab for legal issues? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Chung, very much. So, so even before the Confanoche, I don't know what new thing Confanoche Teaching Hospital has introduced as far as this issue of consent is concerned. What I do know is that it is assumed that once you come to the hospital and you subject yourself to the hospital environment, you have already given your consent to everything that you do, even when you come to the lab. So we know that, but then why is it that when you are going to the theater, they will seek for your consent again? or when they are giving you blood transfusion, they seek for your consent again. And then don't assume that once you have come to the hospital, why is it that that doesn't apply to those situations too? Okay, that's my concern. But I have said that because we could use the information of the patient for decision making at the entrance, we could indicate or we could make a statement somewhere in the hospital, the way they also indicate that every patient should pay their money at this. They could also make a statement, body written somewhere, that any information that is obtained from the patient could be used for the purpose of decision making. Once it is pasted there and patients read, it is assumed that once they have read it, then they have understood that their information could be used for that purpose. I don't know what Kath has done so far on this. So I'm not in the position to tell how they went about this, but this is what I think. But when you come to the laboratory, it is also required that you seek their consent, even though we assume that once they come to the laboratory, but there are still ethical issues there that you have to give the patient the chance to decide whether they still want to be part of any research, or they want to their information to be used for any decision making or for the purposes of research. We should officially seek their consent and even document their consent. That you are not doing, and I'm sure Dr. GS can have something to say about it. But for HVS, if a lab scientist who is a male want to take HVS sample for a patient, it will be advisable that you get somebody to be a witness there. Indeed, even the doctors, if they are the consulting room and they want to examine a female, I think that they do that in the presence of the nurses. So I think the same thing will have to apply to a lab scientist who want to take HVS sample. Will not have to do that alone, but will have to do it in the presence of another female. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you very much, Doc. So with regards to the first question, it would be appropriate that we display some of this information in our policies at vantage point where the patient can see. We shouldn't assume that the fact that the patient has come to a teaching facility or a teaching hospital, the patient assumes that you assume that the patients have consented to research using the patient as a participant. We could also use the lab handbook. So for hospitals like Hollywood, we have displayed our lab handbook on the website. And so you can put these conditions in the handbook, publicly available to all clients. And so when the client comes to your facility, it means that the client has accepted the care and we want to go by some of these conditions. So we can look at some of this. But it is important that if you want to use patients for research, especially research that you will require them to come back. Sorry, there's interference. Additional testing, you may have to seek their consent, not for the fact that you take their sample, next time you invite them and come and say that, last time you came to the hospital, we took your test we took your blood for a test, so we are doing an additional test. We have to let them know the processes from the beginning. So, MLS Nicholas Yeboah.
Thank you very much. Please, my concern is on how we do our trainings. For somebody to become the knowledge and also the skill before you be competent. But this is an issue within the lab whereby people are trained or being trained by some laboratory personnel in facilities where they are not adequate or the proper equipment for training. On the other hand, maybe these people who are being trained to may not have the qualifications to be trained as laboratory professionals, but you get a laboratory person training such people to come and practice. My first question is it professional? If it's not, then what are some of the ascribed punishments or something that we can do in order to cure that? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nico. Dr. GS, there was some feedback from his distance, so I don't know whether I'm the only one who had it, or did you get his question clear so that you could repeat it for me?
Okay, so he summarized the question saying that is it professional to contribute to training of persons who do not have the requisite qualification to be trained as medical laboratory scientists or professionals? And what are some of the things or disciplinary measures in place for such persons who contribute to training people who, prior to their training, are not competent or qualified?
Okay, so when it comes to training, you can train whoever you want to train. You know, nobody can stop anybody from training, because training is something that is always ongoing. Continuous training, you always continue to train people. So you cannot stop anybody from training. But the person who is training, who asks the person to train, is where the issues are. The person who is doing the training himself, is that person competent enough to do the training? Whoever asks that person to do the training, does that person also have the authority and the mandate to ask that person to also do the training? As for and you said that the training is training the person to become a lab scientist or what? I didn't get that part well.
Yeah, so I think what he's trying to say is that we have had situations where there are schools that have not been certified by any regulatory institution, including the Allied Health Professions Council, who purport to be training medical laboratory professionals. And you have some medical laboratory professionals qualified, so to speak, who would be contributing to the training of these persons. Or you have been employed to teach in a school, and you've realized that the people who have been admitted in the school or by the school do not meet the requisite qualification to even enroll in the program, and you are contributing to the training. I think that's what he's trying to talk about.
Oh, okay. I didn't get that. I didn't get that. I'm not getting it. So if that is what he is asking, then it's a major issue. From my background, and I know that before somebody would do, an institution is giving any accreditation to run a program, it goes through a lot of it goes through a lot of processes. And so if GTEC, Ghana Tertiary Education Council, gives an accreditation, it means that that institution has gone through all the requirements. And then that is also enforced by the Allied Health Professions Council. Then you know that all the requirements have been met. So they also regulate. And so if they come to your school and they realize that your students do not meet the admission requirement that you yourself have set, and that GTEC and Allied Health have approved for you to use to admit your student, they could even sack or not sack. They cannot sack, but they will, I don't know the word to use, but they can't stop the student from going through the program. And we have heard it before, some years back, where some students who were admitted were all sacked because they did not meet some entry requirements. So that has been done before. The only program currently that I know that are not regulated by GTEC is the lab assistant program. And that one is not regulated by GTEC. And I do not know, and we do not know, and Allied Health doesn't also give license. So lab assistant program is a low cadre program that is left with either Ministry of Health or something to give them go ahead to run. But they do not go through the normal tertiary education robust auditing and assessment before they run those programs. Those institutions that go through those programs, they actually don't falter. But those lab assistant schools are those ones that are, and they are not under GTEC, they are also not under Allied Health. And so that's where the problem is. And then if these institutions also train these students, the Allied Health should also not absorb them and give their names to Ministry of Health for them to employ them, so that these things will stop. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So just to contribute to the training issue, we are legally mandated as a professional body to contribute to training standards and ensure that our training institutions are contributing to producing the right caliber of professionals. And we have performed that mandate by drawing attention of the Allied Health Professions Council, GTEC, and other NAPTEC and other regulators to such issues. And we encourage all of us to draw the attention of the National Secretariat to such schools if we come across them. And recently, with the issue of the Royal Nursing College, we drew attention of members to desist from participating in sharing knowledge with schools that have not been accredited. And so it is an unethical behavior to be teaching people who do not qualify to be taught our profession. And so if we get to know that you are doing that, we are mandated by the law, NRCD 143, to punish ourselves. So the disciplinary committee can punish you if we find out that you are contributing to training in a school that is not accredited. And as well, the Allied Health Profession Council has, the law mandates the council to also punish anybody who engages a person who is unqualified, teaches in a school that is not accredited, or operates a school that is not accredited. So our doors are open. If you come across such things, please petition the office and give us details of this information, and we'll take it up. The challenge is that sometimes people give us the information and the information are not adequate. So you write to the council and they will ask you to provide evidence. But the ones that members gave us the information and we had proper evidence, some of these people have been dealt with. If you go to the council, you realize that people's pins have been withdrawn. We are able to do some of these things. So we are capable of that. And we should contribute as professionals to this course. James, MLS James Tay.
Yeah, Solo.
Yes, sir. Please continue.
Yeah, thank you. I want to ask, in terms of ethics, professionalism, and standards, okay, is it advisable to allow patients to buy you logistics to work with? Or even if they were asked by maybe management to buy, is it advisable to turn them back and say you can't use those logistics to work on them? So I want to find out ethically, professionally, and standards. Is it right to either accept or not accept logistics from clients? Thank you.
So it's accept what?
Logistics.
Logistics.
It can be EDTA tubes, gloves, syringes, things to use that the lab is not having. The patient may be asked to go and buy it for you to use to work on them. Ethically, is it good to either accept or reject professionally? And then standardly, is it also advisable? Thank you.
So let me just put it in simple terms. That is unethical. It's unethical, whether in the laboratory or in the health facility, to ask any patient to go and buy logistics before those things should be used to manage them. It is highly unethical, and we all speak against those things. And I don't know what else I should say about this, but just let me say that it is unethical. So if the environment that the patient is, the patient cannot buy or does not have access to getting some of this logistics, what does it mean? Okay, so we are talking about fairness, we are talking about justice. Okay, we are talking about equity, we are talking about equality. Why will somebody in a particular place be served with all this logistics for their test to be done, and then somebody in another place is not able to have access to some of these things for this test to be done for them? Then there's no equity. And I don't even think the employer will not even subscribe in any way to this arrangement by the hospital. If this thing happens and it gets to the whoever, it will be a problem for the facility for asking patients, relatives, or patients to go and buy logistics to be used for on them. Thank you.
Doc, my question was in two forms. So
okay.
In the case where the patient has already been asked to buy those things and the patient has bought the things and brought, will you say that, okay, one, it's not ethical for the patient to go and buy, so you are not going to use it to attend to the patient professionally? It's not right for you to take items from patient to work on them. And then looking at the standard as well. So I want to get that side also, please.
Okay, I understand. So what it means is that is the hospital policy, right? It means that it is the facility policy. It is not the laboratory that is asking the people to go and buy the things, but the hospital that has taken that decision that patients should go and buy the things, right? Or
yeah, in a way. Yes.
Is the facility that asks the patient to do so. So if it is the policy of the facility, if there's a problem, it's the head of the facility who will answer to it. But for you at the laboratory, who is the user of those items, you have to assess. You have to assess the item. So, for example, if it is EDTA tube that the person has brought or went to buy, you will look at it, whether it meets your requirement, it meets your standard. If it meets your requirement and standard, if it is not expired, if it is either sodium or potassium EDTA, the one that you use, those are the things you check. If you check and they are all good, you can use it. But the hospital will bear full responsibility of that decision that they have taken. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc.
Just to add to the issue of standards, I think that in enforcing standards, we are supposed to document our processes, and approvals have to come from management of the facility. So management responsibility and commitment to the system is very important as we work in health facilities and the laboratory. So it cannot be right in terms of standard to be saying that patients should be buying things for you to work with whilst you have collected money from the patient. And even to the extent that if you can vouch for the item, to what extent can you quality control the item before use? So we need to go back to management, document some of these things, the processes and procedures, let them know that it is not right, and advocate against it. Thank you. Asana. So I think after this round of questioning, we would have to end. Thank you very much.
Good evening.
Asana, thank you.
Please, I would like to find out how we handle, especially like circulating information regarding the ethics, like maybe taking consent from clients, like you suggested, we could also paste the information at the vital point. How do we handle clients who are unable to read and write? That they can actually also take some legal actions against them if they find out they might have used their sample. So how do we tackle such issues? Thank you.
Okay, Dr. J.S., please, can you recap the question for me?
She's saying that there are times we come across patients or clients who are unable to read and write. And so when you paste information, they cannot read. If you put this information on the website, they are not technologically competent, so they cannot read it. How do you ensure that you gain their consent for your work and for research purposes?
That's also a good question. That is also of great concern. So it is not only people who cannot even read and write, but you also have people who are physically challenged. So now they say we should not say dumb or deaf, or so those who have eye problem. How do we call them? So those who cannot see, those who cannot hear, those who cannot read, and
visually or hearing impaired.
Those who are physically impaired and visually impaired, yes, and hearing impaired. So now that is the term that they use. Visually impaired, hearing impaired, and all those things, physically impaired. So those things are major concern. That is why some facilities, they will write the statement in English, and then depending on the where the facility is located and the and they also write it in another language that is familiar to the people in that location. So if it is, let's say, a typical Ga community, so they'll write the English and then write the same statement in Ga. But the issue is as to whether, even if you come to Twi, it's not everybody and every account person who can even read Twi. Even the literate, some of them cannot even read Twi, So that is a challenge. That's why even in some facilities, they are now training people on the use of the sign language, so that those who come to the facilities and they cannot hear or they cannot see, they have people in the facility who can assist them in that direction. So a lot of facilities are now moving into that direction. That is the only way that we can overcome some of these challenges. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So I think that we are in a technologically advanced world now. You can also pre-record some of these things and play it in your laboratory for people, at least people who cannot read, to listen to it. You can as well use languages within your locality that people understand. And it becomes easy dealing with the people. And sometimes if you're able to even map your processes and the audiovisual material is able to run the patient through this, it helps the patient to cooperate with you during your work.
So, Dr. Yes, so let me add this. In fact, the televisions that has been fixed at the laboratory waiting area, it is meant for those purposes. It's meant for some of this educational, some of this information to be played for the people who come to the waiting area to be able to listen and watch. But unfortunately, people use it to watch UEFA football and matches and to watch Nigerian movies. And because of that, some facility heads are not even, prepared to even spend money to put the television there for it to be used for educational activities. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So, Enoch.
Yeah, thank you, Doug. I want a clarification. I think when Dr. was presenting, he mentioned the and consultant in our profession. I want to know what also on government payroll. With regards to client buying items, tests like OGTT, if they buy the glucose, and the water, is it that one?
Enoch, I think there's a challenge with your.
Yes, please. I was asking about the specialty and the consultant in our profession. But are they also on the government?
We've listened to you. We would answer you. So we'll take Stephen, then we would answer the two questions together and run up. Thank you. Stephen, you can ask your question.
Thank you, please. Please, with regard to the ethics part, how, as laboratory professionals, how do we respond to situations that tend to undermine our ethics, like say management positioning a revenue collector who has no background in health in the laboratory, especially the sample collection area. How do we respond to this? Thank you.
All right, thank you. So I will answer part of the questions and the presenter would answer. And so I think the presenter is capable of answering all the questions. However, let me just answer. So with regards to the specialist grades and the consultant's grades, these grades have been, we are currently together with the union, MELPU, finalizing the scheme of service. The scheme of service is supposed to create the cadre, and the employer would then create the grade on the payroll, do the job evaluation, and people can be appointed to such positions. So it is work in progress. With the forming of the Medical Laboratory Professionals Union, they are championing that work. Gamls started that work and have handed over to them. They are not doing it alone. We follow up regularly on them to ensure that all the cadres that need to be placed for people to be employed accordingly are done. So very soon, we'll have some of these things done. Thank you very much. Dr. Osha, you can continue.
Yes. His second question, Enoch's second question, I didn't get it well, but Stephen's own, in terms of a revenue collector coming to sit in the laboratory to collect revenue, it's an issue about safety. It's a safety issues, and it's also an ethical issue because that revenue collector does not have any protective thing while sitting in the laboratory and be touching things and be carrying infection from the laboratory. So under no circumstance should a revenue collector be asked to come and sit in the lab to collect revenue. Perhaps there's no available space allocated for the revenue person outside the laboratory. And that is why the person is asked to come and sit in the lab. That is one reason. The other reason could also be that they think that the laboratory is smarting the system. And so the best way is to put the revenue collector directly in the laboratory space so that every single patient who enters the laboratory they'll collect the money so that the money doesn't go elsewhere. That could be the reason why they will want to do that. But in both cases, there shouldn't be any reason for anybody. So the lab manager or the lab in charge at that place should educate management and create a space for the revenue collector. Even if in front of the door, they create a cage there for the revenue collector, it is better so that when the patient are entering, they see them and collect their money before the patient enters the laboratory, but not to let the person come into the laboratory space because of safety reason. But Enoch's second question, I didn't get it well. I got the specialist and the consultant one, which you have explained, but the second one, I didn't get it well.
Enoch, your line was not stable when you were asking the second question. Kindly come back.
Okay, Doc. Yes, I was asking some tests like OGTT and at times we need glucose and water. So per safety, we think that if the client buys the water and the glucose and is used, I don't know whether that one to have ethical challenges. So I just want clarification on that.
Oh, okay. So this practice has gone on for so many years, and we have not raised any issue about that. Patient buying their own water, and then but there is the OGTT, is the glucose for me. I would have wished that it is supplied from the pharmacy, and then they will not need to buy it directly from outside. But for water, I think that they can buy their water to for the test.
Okay,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you, Doug.
All right, Doc, just to add to that, I think we owe some duty to be responsible for the services we are providing. So if you are charging, let's say 150 for OGTT, what went into the costing? Did you consider the fact that you need to buy glucose, buy water, and also run the test in that amount? Another question will arise whether or not you are sure of what the patient is bringing for you to miss and give to the patient. What happens if the patient brings something to you, you are not sure what material it is, you miss it for the patient collapses after drinking the item? Who should be held responsible? And these are some of the things we should be looking at. It has not happened yet, but we are also growing in the world now where people knows legalities. We heard recently, we were cautioned by the Ashanti Regional Chairman, Dr. Eric Edu, that to the extent that for HIV, in what they've seen in Kumasi is that somebody will come to the lab saying that I want to run HIV test with you. You run the test. The next day, the patient comes to you and says that, oh, I ran the test somewhere. Your result is not correct. And so it could be the same patient, but you were not able to identify the patient. The patient just came. Okay, there's no form of identification. You ran the test. The patient comes and says that you have committed a medical error, and that has caused harm to me. How do you ascertain that you have dealt with the patient? So in the same case, we should be sure that what the patient is bringing is glucose. And to avoid the fact that you can be taken on legally for something the patient brought to you, which you've missed for the patient without knowing what it is, I would recommend that we cost all this in the test, the cost of the test, and ensure that it is bought in the facility or from the pharmacy as recommended by the presenter, and we miss it for the patient. So we are sure that whatever the outcome is, we can be responsible for it. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Doc. I'm really grateful. That's great.
That's great, Solo.
All right, thank you so much. And so there are a few comments. Dr. Elizabeth Sovo is concerned about the fact that we should not just, she is saying that it is not ethically acceptable to ask patients to consent without providing appropriate information regarding scientific research. So using laboratory handbook cannot be appropriate. That is her view. And so what we are saying is that in health facilities, information can be provided that your data can be analyzed for health research purposes. And I think that is done, where we use these informations as secondary data later for research purposes in the hospital. So even when you will not take consent as the patient is coming to take the test, the patient should be aware, should be made to know that in the future, your data can be analyzed. And we are talking about DIMS, and other information system. It is patient result that government analyzes to request for funding from development partners. And so it is important that we let the patient know that your data contributes to health policy and research. And I don't think it is wrong, but even to the extent that we have LIMS, we can let them create dashboards within the system or clickable buttons within the system where we can click, just ask the patient, your information can be used for future research within our organization. Do you consent to it? We click it, and there's a trail of it within the system. So before we get the concluding remarks from our presenter, Maswell has raised his hands. Maswell.
All right, so thank you for the insightful presentation and contributions. So with respect to the OGTT, I have a question. Like you see, when you are preparing the solution, mostly the patients are not present to observe what is going on. And sometimes you get patients who are so inquisitive and then they say that they want to see what actually you are preparing for them. So in that case, is it ethical for you as a laboratory scientist to either take the patient to where you are preparing the glucose solution or probably to prepare it in front of him or her for her to know that? So ethically, what is the as the laboratory scientist? Thank you.
Yes, well, I think what he said is right. I think the right thing to do is to get the preparation done in the presence of the patient. It is very critical. I think that should be the one, that you don't take it and prepare it and call the patient to come and take. But after you have weighed, you have done the weighing and you put it in the cup that they have brought. You ask them to bring the water and then dissolve it, and then in their presence before you give it to them to take it. I think that should be the way it should be done. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So before your concluding remarks, you presented an FBC report and you asked questions as to people saying A, B, C. So if you can give the answer, then you give your concluding remarks for today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Unfortunately, I've not been able to monitor the response that people have given. So what I would have done is that the question me myself have asked, it is okay. Let me put it this way. Now I'm not able to follow the response. I wanted to say that I wanted to use this principle that the majority or those who selected, how do I put it, the ones with the high frequency of resource or answer will be the one I would have chosen to be the answer. All right, so actually the few one that I've gone through, I think a lot of people selected B. Is that the case?
That is true. That is true.
A lot of people answered B. So the B is an analyzed resource, but it is not an interpreted resource. So what it means is that we are sending a lot of laboratory results to the clinicians without interpreting it. And sometimes I wonder whether the clinicians are even able to interpret some of our laboratory results. I really wonder. And the point I wanted to make is that a resource that is analyzed but is not interpreted is not a resource. That's the point I want to make. A resource that is analyzed but not interpreted is not a resource. So let's think about it. Let's think about it and let's make sure that any resource that we generate in the laboratory, that the analyzer, we should take time and study the results and make sure that the results are well interpreted before we issue it to the clinicians. So on that note, let me just
interrupt you. I think there's last comment from senior Tebia Jatash. He's saying that would there still be an issue of conflict of interest if you are a supplier of lab items and declare your interest and recuse yourself from the procurement process?
Okay, that's also a good question. That's also a good question. If you are part of the team, that is doing the procurement evaluation, then you have to disclose it. And having disclosed it, you also excuse yourself. So that is a point well made. But then, even though you may not be part of the team, but you may also have friends in the team, you know. So Dr. Jata may not be is a friend to Dr. Kwashe. Dr. Kwashe is in the team. Dr. Jata has excused himself because he has interest in the team, but his friend is there, you know. So Dr. Kwashe should also say that since Dr. Jata is my friend, and I'm also excusing myself from the team, you know. But you are my friend, and then you know you are my friend, and then you are not excusing. That is also conflict of interest, you know. So we can extend and expand it. I can see Mrs. Sobo say it's still conflict of interest. Oh, why you want to crucify Dr. Jata like that? Okay, so thank you very much.
All right, your concluding remarks, sir.
So I just want to say that this profession is actually governed by guidelines, by rules as a profession. And therefore, we should be guided by that. And anything that you are doing, we should think carefully about it, because we have several professionals, lab professionals. So our number is about 4,000. The number of unemployed people cry even at numbers, those who are already employed in the system. And if we add them, including the students who are waiting to also join, then we are getting over 10,000. And so the professionals grow. They have a big community now. And therefore, anything that anybody does in the small corner has an implication for the whole profession. And that's why ethical issues, professional code of ethics has become a major issue for us to deal with. So that whatever we are doing, we know that there are thousands of people whose credibility is also at stake. So on that note, I want to thank you all very much for the opportunity that you've given to me to share this with you. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. And so we are grateful for your presence with us. We know tomorrow you would be with us again and share your vast knowledge and experience with us. The comment from the chat indicates that your presentation has been insightful and has been a good one. So we are grateful. We are also grateful to all of us who were in the presentations and who would later go and watch the video. Let's go back to YouTube and like and subscribe to Gamls TV and share the link with others to also learn about some of these things. So we see ourselves tomorrow again at 5 p.m. for the concluding session of the workshop. And so just to live with us, I think we need to also implement some important things out of this presentation. So let's go to the internet, look for documents on how to write confidentiality statements, impartiality statements, and conflict of interest statements. And we can even do as one document, and by that we are building a quality management system for ourselves. Thank you very much, and a good night. We also want to say a thank you to the PR team, the National Executive Council, all leaders of Gamls, and all those who have contributed to the success of the programs. See you tomorrow.